The room felt colder than usual that morning, even though the sun was shining outside. David sat quietly in the waiting room of a small-town clinic, glancing nervously at his teenage daughter, Lily, who hadn't said much since they arrived. Normally cheerful and full of energy, she seemed distant, almost like she was somewhere else entirely. Her sudden mood swings, strange behavior. At first, David thought it was just stress from school or maybe some teenage phase, but today, something felt different. The nurse called them in, and they walked into the exam room where the doctor greeted them warmly. After a short conversation, the doctor suggested doing a quick ultrasound just to rule out a few possibilities. David didn't understand why an ultrasound was necessary, but he agreed. As the screen lit up and the doctor moved the wand across Lily's stomach, the air in the room shifted. The doctor's face changed. His eyes narrowed. His smile faded. He stopped speaking. David leaned forward, trying to understand what was happening, but the doctor didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared at the screen, confused, maybe even alarmed. Lily looked away, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. "What is it?" David finally asked, his voice tense. But the doctor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowly turned to David with a look that sent a chill down his spine. And then he spoke. The doctor took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "David, I'm not sure what I'm seeing here, but this isn't something I expected." He turned the monitor slightly. But the image on the screen meant nothing to David. It was just blurry shapes and strange shadows. Lily still wouldn't look at either of them. Her face was pale now, and she seemed even more withdrawn than before. "I need to run a few more tests," the doctor added, his voice low but serious. "Something doesn't add up." "Has Lily had any recent injuries? Any history of health issues?" In the family, David shook his head. "No, she's always been healthy." She hasn't said anything about being hurt either. But deep down, he realized he hadn't really been paying close attention lately. After his wife passed away 2 years ago, everything changed. He'd done his best to stay strong for Lily. But maybe she was struggling more than he thought. As the doctor stepped out to call for a specialist, David turned to his daughter. "Lily, you can talk to me, please. If something's wrong, I want to help." But she stayed silent, still staring at the wall like she was afraid to say anything. Her hands trembled just slightly. That's when David noticed something else, something that made his heart race. A small mark, faint but strange, just beneath her collarbone. He hadn't seen it before, and suddenly, quiet thought crept into his mind. Asterisk, what if Lily had been keeping a secret? One he wasn't ready to hear. Asterisk, David couldn't stop staring at the small mark on Lily's skin. But before he could ask about it, the doctor returned, with another man in a lab coat. This one looked older, more experienced, and he didn't waste time with introductions. He studied the ultrasound image carefully, whispering something to the first doctor that David couldn't catch. Then they asked Lily to lie back again. As they repeated the scan, the room grew quieter. The second doctor finally spoke, his tone calm but firm. "Mr. Harlan, has your daughter traveled anywhere recently? Any remote locations, hiking, or lakes?" David shook his head, confused. "No, just school and home. We live a pretty quiet life." The doctor didn't seem convinced. "There's something here, something we can't explain yet." Meanwhile, Lily still hadn't said a word. But her eyes suddenly flicked toward the corner of the room just for a second. David followed her gaze. There was nothing there. Still, the way she looked, almost like she was checking if something or someone was watching, sent a strange chill through him. Later, while the doctors stepped out to discuss test results, David sat beside Lily again. "Please, sweetheart, I need to know what's going on." Finally, she whispered, barely loud enough to hear. They said not to tell anyone. David froze. Who? Lily looked at him, her eyes wide and fearful. But before she could answer, the lights flickered. The lights flickered again, longer this time, casting quick shadows across the room. David stood up, glancing toward the hallway where the doctors had disappeared. Everything suddenly felt off. Lily gripped the edge of the exam table tightly, her knuckles white. Her breathing grew uneven, and her eyes darted around the room like she was bracing for something. Lily, who said not to tell anyone. David asked again, his voice low but firm. She swallowed hard. They come when it gets dark. They said. If I talk, they'll know. David's heart pounded. Who are they? What are you talking about? But Lily didn't answer. She stared at the ceiling like she was listening for something far away. Outside the exam room, a crash echoed down the hallway. David rushed to the door and peeked out. A tray had fallen. A nurse picked it up, apologizing nervously, but something in her eyes looked scared. Back inside, the second doctor returned only. This time, his face was pale. He handed David a file and hesitated before speaking. The scan shows something foreign. It's not a growth, it's implanted. David froze. Implanted? What do you mean? But before the doctor could respond, Lily suddenly cried out. She clutched her side in pain, her body curling inwards. The monitor began beeping rapidly, and then the lights went out completely. Everything plunged into darkness. David reached for Lily, but the only thing he heard was her whisper. They're here. The room was completely dark, now silent, except for the rapid beeping of the monitor and Lily's shaky breathing. David fumbled for his phone, trying to use its flashlight, but the screen was dead. No power, no signal, nothing. Then a faint humming filled the room, low and strange, like a vibration that settled deep into his bones. Lily squeezed his hand tightly, her whisper trembling. Don't move. They don't like sudden movements. David's mind raced. Was this a panic attack? A hallucination? Or something far more real than he wanted to believe? He crouched beside her, trying to stay calm. Lily, talk to me. What's going on? Who are they? What's inside you? Before she could answer, a sharp knock echoed from the hallway. Not a normal knock. This one was slow, deliberate, 3 steady hits, then silence. Moments later, the door creaked open on its own. No one stood there, but something was there. A faint figure appeared just beyond the threshold. Unmoving, its shape blurred by the shadows. David blinked, unsure if his eyes were playing tricks, but Lily saw it too. She began trembling, harder, covering her ears. It's the one from the woods. I told them I didn't want it. I told them to take it back. David turned to her, stunned. The woods? What woods? David's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean? That night, what happened in the woods? Lily finally spoke, her voice shaking but clear. Mom didn't fall. She wasn't sick. She said they could help us, said they promised peace. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the memory spilled out. But something went wrong. They changed her. She told me never to speak of it again. The humming in the room grew louder. The figure in the doorway moved closer, slow and silent. But now, David could see it clearly. Its face was human and familiar. Mom, he whispered. Stunned, Lily nodded, sobbing. She didn't die, Dad. They took her, and they made her one of them. The figure stopped just a few feet away. Her eyes were glowing faintly, her skin pale but untouched by time. She looked at them, not with cruelty, but with something almost mournful. Then she spoke, voice soft and layered like an echo. She's not ready, but she will be. The bond is already forming. Suddenly, Lily's stomach glowed faintly beneath the skin. Right where the ultrasound had shown the strange shape, David grabbed her, shielding her. "You're not taking her? Not again." The figure backed away slowly, and the light snapped. Back on. The doctors burst into the room, confused, claiming nothing had happened. But when David looked down at Lily again, the glowing mark was gone, and so was the file. David sat in the hospital room long after everything had quieted down. The power was back. The doctors said Lily had just fainted from stress, and no one else had seen the figure in the doorway. File with the strange ultrasound image. Gone, with no record of it in the system. They offered a new scan, which came back completely normal. Nothing foreign, no glow. It's just a healthy teenage girl. But David knew better. Lily hadn't imagined it, and neither had he. On the drive home, Lily leaned her head against the window, silent. There was a quiet strength in her now, like she knew who she was and what she carried. That night, David found the old journal his wife had kept. Buried between torn pages was a single note in her handwriting. Asterisk, they choose one from each line. We cannot stop it. Only protect it. Asterisk, he closed the book and stared at the stars outside. Whatever his wife had gotten involved with, it wasn't over. But he wouldn't lose Lily too. He had no answers, only a promise to protect her. No matter what came next. Some mysteries don't get solved. They're meant to be carried, not cracked open. And as David turned off the light and shut Lily's door for the night, he couldn't shake the feeling somewhere out there. They were still watching, and they were waiting. #TrueStory, #MysteryStory, #UNEX.